Happy Monday. John Lorden here with another episode of Brain Scratch Case Cracked. Of course, that's the show where we look into a mystery and what is the critical piece or pieces that help solve it. And before we get started on today's case, I just want to say I hope you are staying healthy and keeping your sanity if you are self-quarantining. I know some people can get a little stir-crazy when they're forced to stay at home, so I hope everything's going smooth with you, and thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. This is a case that, quite honestly, might have the cheesiest alibi I've ever heard in my life. Literally. Kelly Dwyer had always gone above and beyond in everything in her life. A member of countless clubs and activities at her high school in the North Chicago suburb of Lincolnshire, this vivacious young woman lived life to the fullest. That is why the divorce of her parents in 2003 came as such a shock. During her junior year of high school, her family life fell completely apart, and the once confident girl seemed to be set adrift. She wouldn't find her feet again until she moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In early 2012, Kelly was hired as an educator for the Lululemon athleisure store. Never one to stay idle, she also started doing yoga and got her second job teaching the practice at a studio called Core Essence. She would also find a third job, nannying 2 children for chef-restaurateur Thomas Hawk. The 27-year-old was living her best life. She had an apartment near some of the city's most popular night spots and was often seen frequenting them with coworkers and at other times with men that she was dating. But there was one man in particular that she had continued to see for almost a year. IT executive Chris Zacco was older than her, but the two seemed to have a lot in common. They would talk a few times a week, and on some weekends, meet up for drinks or dinner. On October 11th, 2013, they went on a date, but the following day, Kelly didn't show up for work. Her coworkers quickly became concerned. Kelly never missed work, especially not without calling in first. They tried calling her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. And when they checked her social media, all of her accounts were shut down. This was completely out of character for Kelly, and they unanimously decided to call the police. Investigators first looked at her financial accounts for activity, but found no transactions after the 11th. While questioning her friends and coworkers, they learned of Kelly's date with Chris. They followed up with him. Chris stated that the two had met at his apartment on the 11th and then walked across the street to a bar called Alibi and had drinks. Witnesses at the bar reported that Kelly seemed relaxed and even mentioned to one person that she was looking forward to the following day. A little after 2 in the morning, the couple walked back to Zacco's apartment where they were recorded entering the building on CCTV cameras. He claimed that Kelly left at around 9 a.m. the next morning, but said he had no idea what happened to her after that. He told police that he and Kelly were casual friends and would hang out a few times a week and party. These parties usually consisted of cocaine, marijuana, and sex. However, Chris had also been dating another woman named Megan for the past 3 years, and they were apparently in a serious relationship. Megan's parents were coming to town for a visit, so to welcome them on October 12th, Zacco drove 160 miles outside of Milwaukee to the Mouse House in Madison. The Mouse House Cheese House is a popular tourist destination located just off busy I-94. This family business offers 145 different varieties of assorted cheeses produced in their own factories. Megan's parents loved a particular type that they carried that was called Igor's Heat. Zacco bought a half-pound wedge of the spicy pepper jack as a gift. Investigators found it odd that in a state full of cheese shops, he went to one so far away. One of Wisconsin's most popular cheese shops, the Wisconsin Cheese Mart, is just a 1.5 mile drive from Megan's apartment building and only 2 miles from Zacco's. They also offered their own version of Igor's Heat, but there were no traces of Kelly to be seen at his apartment, and he had receipts to prove that he had made the trip, so detectives decided to investigate other avenues of interest. On October 13th, Kelly's family officially announced their daughter was missing. Her mother, Maureen, would tell reporters, "This is the most awful, horrible thing anyone could ever go through. I don't know where my baby is, and I may never see her again." As press conferences were held to update the public and officers questioned her friends and associates, countless volunteers handed out flyers and made inquiries. Billboards went up all over the state as any trace of the woman was sought. Reports taken from Kelly's friends spoke of an unease that the women felt around Zocko, once again bringing him back into the focus of investigators. Because he had mentioned drug use, it was easy for officers to obtain a search warrant for his apartment, and on October 17th, that's exactly what they did. During the search, a dog trained to detect human remains hit on several locations, which included the bathroom, hallway, a trash chute, and Zocko's car. A check of his cell phone found videos of Kelly, bound and gasping for air during a bondage scene that Zocko claimed the two consensually engaged in. Cell phone data also showed that on the day of Kelly's disappearance, there was a gap of 17 hours in the location data, as if the SIM card had been removed for a period of time or the data had been deleted in some way. Most disturbingly, CCTV footage from the apartment did show her arriving, but it didn't show her leaving. As their search neared an end, investigators found a trove of hard drives and other miscellaneous computer equipment. When the hard drives were examined, they were found to contain child pornography. Charges were filed, and this led to a conviction of 16 counts of possession of child pornography and 3 drug charges, which gave Zocko a total of 19 years in prison. During his trial, prosecutors kept coming back to Kelly, whose case was now classified as cold. Zocko, they claimed, was the only one who could help them find her. At the end of his trial, he once again stated that he knew nothing about her disappearance. At the end of April in 2015, Kelly's family announced volunteer searchers would go outside of Milwaukee looking for her. However, it wasn't one of those searchers that would ultimately find Kelly. On May 1st, a man out for an afternoon walk found her body along a dead-end rural road about 45 miles away from Milwaukee. 6 days later, using dental records, the remains were identified as that of Kelly Dwyer. For a year and a half, Kelly's body had laid hidden in brush under trees just 6 miles from the I-94, that same highway that someone would have taken to get to a certain cheese shop. An autopsy would be unable to find a definitive cause of death, as her body was in the elements for too long and badly decomposed. Based on the cell phone video evidence, the coroner ruled that Kelly had died from strangulation or suffocation. Most involved in the case agreed it was just too much of a coincidence that she was found just miles from the route that Zocko drove, specifically on the day she disappeared. However, they feared they didn't have enough evidence to get a conviction. At least not yet. Chris was going to be in jail for the next 19 years, so they had time on their side. Investigators were certain that Zocko's road trip had nothing to do with Cheese and everything to do with disposing of Kelly Dwyer, but they wouldn't get the evidence they needed to prove that until November 9th, 2017. Detectives interviewed an inmate at the Waupun Correctional Institution in Wisconsin who said he had information regarding the homicide. The inmate stated that Zocko was worried that he might be implicated by an ex-girlfriend. He also claimed that Kelly's death had been an accident, and when he realized she was dead, he, quote, freaked out. Zocko then told him that he took her body to the bathroom and attempted to wake her. When she wouldn't wake, Zocko said he wrapped Kelly's body in a shower curtain and used the garbage chute in his building to get her to the first level. In July of 2018, this same inmate reached back out to investigators saying Zocko was asking for his help. Zocko was still worried about a possible witness coming forward and allegedly inquired if the inmate's wife could find someone outside of the prison who could deal with his ex-girlfriend. He then discussed possible prices for what he referred to as hits and offered to pay between $2,500 and $5,000. With the inmate's testimony and other evidence gathered on December 14th, 2018, Chris Zacco was found guilty of first-degree reckless homicide, hiding a corpse, and strangulation of the victim. On top of the 19 years he had already been sentenced to, he will spend 31 more years in prison. The 43-year-old will spend virtually the rest of his life behind bars. It's a decision that left Dwyer's family satisfied. Her father, Tony, would say, "I got relief 3.5 years ago when they found the body. She was a 27-year-old kid who was just finding her way as a young woman when she was deliberately taken away by some scumbag. He must suffer as we are suffering." Case cracked. I'd like to give a big thank you to CBS News, TMJ4 Milwaukee, Fox 6 Now, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, MilwaukeeMagazine.com, and of course, Christy Arnhart for researching and writing up today's story. Apparently, Zacco also liked to brag. He was telling people that his family was well off and that he had mob connections. So Kelly's family decided, well, they're going to sue him for restitutions. So those hearings are currently ongoing. I'm kind of curious about it. I mean, being well off and having mob connections, are you really going to be reaching out to inmates to try to make this hit happen on your ex-girlfriend? It just, I don't know, kind of sounds like a story to me. Friends of Kelly's said that they had noticed bruises on Kelly's neck and wrists previously, but when they brought those up with her, she kind of just laughed it off as just another crazy night. So I don't know if that kind of points in a direction that might support his story a little bit, that this was more of an accidental death, that it wasn't necessarily premeditated. The charge they actually got him with was reckless. So I believe that that still encapsulates the possibility of an accident. Many involved with this case don't believe that the pornography found was actually Zacco's. He was an IT guy, and sometimes IT guys will pick up used technology and it'll wind up in their home. And apparently those hard drives could have been from his work. As a former IT guy myself, despite the fact that I've been working in this environment for the past 5 years where I'm looking into very severe cases and sometimes very graphic images, some of the worst things I ever saw in my life, I did find on other people's hard drives. So there might be something to that. Interestingly, sometimes I think justice happens in strange ways. And if nothing else, he was in prison quickly. They were able to find more information and make sure that he got the penalty that he really deserved for taking the life of a 27-year-old woman. Before I end today's video, I'd like to give a very big thank you to PayPal supporters Hillary Green, Brandy Fry, Jennifer Dixon, Angela Welch Sola, and Beth Garton from the UK, who also sent a very nice comment. Thank you so much, Beth. If you'd like to do the same, head over to www.lordandarts.com. You can sign up for PayPal, sign up for Patreon. If you just want to send me a comment, you can drop down to the bottom. There's a form down there where you can do that. And there's also a link there now for if you want to submit a case, you can submit it directly to us using a new form. That form is over at brainscratchers.com. So if you can't find it at Lord and Arts for some reason, just jump to brainscratchers.com. You should be able to find it there. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you back here on Wednesday with a brand new missing person case on Searchlight right here on the Lord and Arts channel.